Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a potential storm system that will be occurring into next week, mainly across the upper plains into the Great Lakes, but it will be shifting further south into the mid-Atlantic, kind of the central, southern, Midwest portion of the U.S. Some powerful storms, some heavy rain, classic summer thunderstorm, and storm potential threats. So yeah, we'll also be going over the heat and the activity that is going on right now across the East Coast with that cold front, and also the tropical storm chances with that tropical storm that is going on right now. If you guys are new, hello and welcome. I am a weather hobbyist. I talk about the weather, so if you like this video, if you like the channel, consider subscribing. And if you're a returning viewer, consider liking the video. And of course, any comments or concerns that anyone has, I usually answer every single comment. So leave them down below and I'll definitely get to them. All right, without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so I want to start off by looking at the 8 to 14 and 6 to 10 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. We will be talking about that storm system, I promise. Notice this is from July 10th through the 16th. So again, from 8 to 14 days. They're favoring, unfortunately, heat for the Northwest. If you recall that concerning pattern videos that I've made at this point, many of them. Yeah, it continues. Cooler across the eastern side of the U.S., the southeastern kind of half. Again, but that doesn't just affect the southeast. It goes up all the way into Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and all the way, obviously, into Florida, Georgia. Doesn't look like a huge cool-off, but definitely cooler than average. Precip-wise, notice wetter across the east towards the mid-Atlantic, maybe eastern Midwest, but then the high plains and much of the Northwest, unfortunately, staying dry. But look at that, above average across Arizona and New Mexico. That is definitely good news for those folks. 6 to 10 day outlook, much of the same story. East of the Mississippi and portions of Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico are, again, very cool. And then maybe the tip of Florida being warm. And then look at the West. Unfortunately, very, 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 very warm. And precip-wise, really the same story. Almost, exactly where it's cool. Bigger chances of above average precip. Where it's warm, probably drier, unfortunately. And that even applies to the tip of Florida. So that is unfortunate for those folks dealing with the drought across the Northwest. And I want to show you some of these temperature anomalies from the ensembles of the GEFS. So this is many models that are combined into an average. So it gives us a good look at what many different models are predicting. It's not just one model that could be crazy and going off somewhere. Notice right now cooler temperatures across the south and the eastern half of the United States. Really the northern and the northwest are pretty darn warm. And notice that this heat, if you're to show this, it does make its way further to the south and east, but really it loses its vigor. And there will be a few days that are warm. For example, July 4th, there will be quite a bit of 90s for many folks. But again, the northeast, the south, the southeast, the Gulf Coast, and even portions of the southwest will remain a bit chillier. Notice that the anomalies of warmth are greater during the night, and really the days are cooler than average, more significantly than nights. Notice we have a pretty large column of air that moves through here early next week. Again, it's cooler air, and you can see all the models are pretty much agreeing on that. Obviously, there are differences, but look at that. That's a pretty powerful cool air mass. I mean, that's equivalent to a fall blast of air. And notice across the west, right? Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Washington, the southwestern portions of Canada, the northwestern U.S., just hot and dry, unfortunately. And look at everywhere else across the U.S., cool weather. And I mentioned this yesterday, and I will do this video where I talk about what this pattern means. There have been many summers that have had a similar pattern, and in the winters went on to be rather interesting, potentially snowy and stormy. I'm not trying to get anyone excited, but I've been doing my fair share of historical analogs, looking back at previous summers that have had this pattern, which not many have, and it's a pretty strong trend. Obviously, it's not an indicator of anything significant, but definitely something I want to make a video on. And I know that a few folks expressed interest in that. But notice, this pattern just remarkably unchanged. I mean, it's rare, because usually during the summer, you don't have such a pattern. It's kind of a flip around. Either, it's warm here, cool here the next day. It's the exact opposite. This summer, I mean, look, obviously as the further out you go, the confidence weakens because it's further out, but still cool across the very similar areas, warmer across the very similar areas. So I guess that's good in a sense. At least there's not going to be a developing drought across the plains, or I should say the Midwest, the central, kind of the south, the southeast. But where it is, it's just gonna get worse. And if you want warm temperatures, you may not get them. And if you want cool temperatures, you may not get them. Again, if you were to take a look at the 2 meter temperature shaded, which is the estimated temperature, I mean, it's not cool, right? I mean, for summer it is, right? 70s, 80s. You're not going to be seeing 60s and 50s. It's not, it's not going to be November type temperatures. Especially towards the west, it's going to be very warm. In the south, it's still going to be the south, 90s, just maybe not hundreds anymore. Or which sometimes can occur, obviously, during this time of the year. So I would say, definitely pleasant. I would say forecast for the southeast, the east. Not a hot summer so far, and it doesn't look like things are going to get really hot. But again, west, the southwest, the northwest, southwestern Canada. Yeah, it's a whole different story, and I feel for you guys. It's probably going to last for a while. Look at that 99, 80. Seattle getting towards 81, according to these models, 82. That's definitely warm. Obviously not 117, the records that they've seen, but that's still considered warm, which just goes to show you that when they do see hundreds, how warm of an anomaly that is. Now let's take a look at that storm system. By the way, let me just show you what the European model shows in terms of temperature. Only goes out to 240 hours. By the way, this is just one model. It's from a different group of models, but it's just still one model. This isn't an ensemble of the European. It's just one model. But notice, really agrees with the GFS, right? A little bit of that heat spreads into the first week of July across the central United States and Northeast, but generally cool. I mean, you could see below average, and again, the West, unfortunately, the anomalies are much greater in the pluses, 25, 24 degrees above average. We don't see those gray colors that we saw when it was almost 40 degrees above average in some locations, but it's still downright warm, and definitely on a warmer side, and the drought conditions with no precip will get exaggerated. They will worsen. And notice that continues. The European does favor a bit of that warmth, maybe a bit more than the GFS, but still, if there is cool air, it's definitely across the east, the central U.S., and not so much the northwest. Though I do want to say that the northeast may be getting, some of those more in out of that heat, like they did in the past few days, a week ago, or when was it? Yeah, about half a week ago. They had those very hot temperatures. Definitely, maybe seeing more of those, but it looks like the west will see the most. And total QPF quantitative precipitation forecast. Notice any rain that does fall is really west of the northwest or east of the northwest and the southwest. But notice, New Mexico, Arizona potentially getting on some of that, but even across the central U.S. Not a huge wet pattern. Though you may be wondering, then why am I talking about a storm system? Well, the storm system that occurs will still be significant. It's just that again, usually there's quite a bit of them during the summer. It's not really anything unusual. And we'll have to see. Some areas will see a ton, some areas won't. This could be a variability across even a few counties, where you may be talking to someone that lives 100 miles away, and they're like, it's been so dry here. And you're like, what? It's been so wet. And it's just because you saw a few thunderstorms and they didn't. That's unfortunately how the summer works. Or fortunately, if you will. Depends on, obviously, what situation you're in and whether or not you want that rain. Notice, for the next, week, really that cold front does push off. It's weakening, and it does kind of stall out, but look at that. The 4th of July, tomorrow the 3rd, a lot of folks already off, Saturday celebrating. The Northeast, rainy, cloudy, the South, but everywhere else, pretty much perfect weather for a 3rd of July forecast. And also the 4th, it will be warm for many, though it doesn't look like a massive heat wave across the central U.S. or even the southeast or the northeast, so really, even pleasant enough to sit outside. Unfortunately, the northwest and upper plains may be just a bit too hot for that. In terms of precipitation, notice there are some storms that could start erupting across Minnesota and Kansas area, but again, not too widespread and rather scattered. And notice the rest of the country is pretty much chilling. The Gulf Coast, though, maybe seeing some showers. Definitely not a bad July 4th forecast. Definitely not bad. Moving on now into Monday, right? We start seeing those storms clusters become a bit more common into Wisconsin, Michigan, Canada. Notice across Texas, Mexico, we start seeing quite a bit of storms. Ontario, the province. Notice again those showers kind of to the southern portions of you in really late Monday to early Tuesday, and the large cities of Toronto, Quebec, Montreal, Ottawa of Canada, seeing some showers out of that on Tuesday. And then notice this is where that storm occurs. We see a large cluster occur across Iowa, Minnesota. Definitely some of these will be severe. Notice a ton of moisture to the south. I mean, a lot of moisture, so that could cause some flooding. But notice it's pretty stationary. We're pretty much occurring over the same locations every day. But look at that. Tuesday, late at night, it starts spreading into Wisconsin, more of Illinois, develops like this tail. So definitely a severe weather threat, probably a tornado a threat to a certain extent, though usually with these type of systems it's pretty limited. But again, if you recall that tornado that occurred across the Chicago area, that was from a QCLS, so quasi-convective linear system, which usually don't produce strong tornadoes. They can produce tornadoes, but an EF3 was definitely an unusual occurrence for that. But again, that just goes to show you, there's really, nature doesn't play by the rules as much as we'd like it to. And notice that to the southeast, right, to the south, lots of storms, and this storm doesn't really necessarily intensify, but it definitely continues to bring bouts of rain across the northeast, the south, right, Kentucky, Virginia, and then eventually the deep south. And then after that, it doesn't look like we'll catch a break. Look at this, a very powerful low pressure for July. And honestly, the cool air here will be supportive of such a kind of slow-moving system. And notice just kind of bouts of severe weather, some rain to the north, more gentle rain where it is cooler. But yeah, definitely a semi-organized system in terms of its characteristics as an actual storm. But yeah, notice it drags out this cold front and quite a bit of cool air behind it. Again, the quantitative QPF may not seem like a lot for some, but notice the south seeing quite a bit, especially northern Mexico. Quite a bit of rain right there. Obviously, that's central Mexico, central northern Mexico. The further west you go, still decent amounts, and further east, still decent amounts as well. Notice Florida to the south, decent amounts. Into Canada, again, 1 to 2 inches. I know they usually say it in millimeters. I don't know how much that is in millimeters. It's a conversion I can't really do in my head mentally. I probably have to learn how to do it though. And then notice into Alberta and Manitoba, or sorry, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, decent amounts. And really, again, you can see right there where those clusters fall through 1 to 3 inches. But again, this is just a forecast of where the greatest chances for rain are, not necessarily how much you'll get, because usually these locations, even where they show the highest, it varies. Sometimes you could see 4 inches, and a place just a little bit over how I moved my cursor could see, nothing. But yeah, definitely east of the Mississippi, a bit towards the plains, and really not much towards the northwest. Let's take a look at the GFS and what it shows in terms of that storm system, right? Let's see if it agrees. If it does, what are the agreements? So notice there's our cold front, July 4th, again, relatively calm for many. Bit of storms across the northwest, maybe across the southwest as well. July 5th and into July 6th, 7th, definitely more stormier. We see clusters of storms moving in across southern Canada, northern U.S., so a lot of moisture, a lot of activity. The GFS agrees with that, and an actual very similar setup, though it does bring that tropical moisture a bit stronger. So maybe the system could utilize this as it pushes forward. Notice Wednesday, Thursday, a stormy day for much of the Midwest, pushing now into the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the South. And look at that, a pretty powerful cold front kind of merges with that tropical storm remnants, and that produces quite a bit of rain for the Northeast. And then, if you recall, the European develops a pretty strong system out of this. The European, or the GFS, definitely shows this, but it doesn't really keep it that strong. It definitely shows rain. Again, a severe potential, and look, even some snow right there with that very cool air mass and a pretty well developed cold front. I mean, that's a rather extensive system, and it does show more activity after that. You could see across the northeast, the south, kind of generally staying south of the Midwest and high plains as the cooler kind of keeps it to the south. Southwest picking up some moisture. The GFS definitely aggressive with that. You could see that's definitely a good thing. They would need that. But if you're to take a look at the total accumulated precipitation, notice it favoring the south, the southwest, the GFS quite significantly. The northeast, you could see the coastal areas especially, potentially over 6 inches. But again, the Midwest, the upper plains seeing decent amounts, except the northwest and kind of the west. Unfortunately, the hottest and the driest, and here the coolest and the wettest. So really, you could argue both things are not that good. If it's cool and wet, disease of all kinds could spread in terms of vegetative disease for plants. Not necessarily humans, but so that could hinder some crop development or ripening of different kinds of fruits. But then towards the northwest, the heat, that also it does its fair share of probably more damage than what I mentioned with the cool and wet weather. Again, very interesting to see what the winter will be. I don't remember a summer pattern being this cool in a while. There obviously have been years like this. I do remember those myself, except definitely in the past 4 or 5 years, it's been a while since we had such a cool, consistent weather pattern here across my area, and such a just horrendous heat across the Northwest, and that heat actually was a record. So definitely interesting. Yes, I'll keep you guys updated. If you're to look at the high res models like the NAM, it goes out to 84 hours. Notice it doesn't really go out far enough to show that storm system. It does show that cold front today. Notice it does wind down and it does spread out. Again, it agrees with the other models. July 3rd, even July 4th for many is very nice, excluding maybe the deep south, some portions of the southwest. And come on, let's push this forward. Let's go, let's go. And you can see July 5th, we start seeing those storm clusters, probably a bit underperformed or underrepresented by the NAM. These will probably be powerful, quite a bit of rain, quite a bit of maybe wind, and then you can see they do start getting a bit more organized as the storm system pushes into Iowa, Illinois, quite a bit of clusters and chances for rain. So at least that will hinder any drought development. But again, the Midwest isn't necessarily the problem. It's more of the Northwest and the West. Hopefully, though, some of that rain they have been getting could fill in some of those reservoirs with water and take those folks through the rest of the summer. I do want to show you those rainfall amounts since I already mentioned them. Notice if you take a look at the 72 hours, let's actually take a look at the last 40 or 24 hours, so just the last day. Notice obviously favoring the Northeast with that rain. I haven't really been keeping track of this, but look at that. Wow, just east of New York City and just west, quite a good amounts of rain, 3 to 4 inches. If you live across these locations, let me know. That's probably a pretty powerful thunderstorm. Notice Boston, some decent amounts. The large cities got some pretty good rain amounts. And then also into New Mexico in the last several days, they've been getting quite a bit. They continue to get that. Hopefully this trickles down into the areas that they need it. 7 inch, definitely not bad. Further towards the north and west, these amounts are quite a bit less, but at least there is some. You can see Carson City hopefully gets supplied with some rain into the runoff to Lake Tahoe, though this fell to the south, and I'm assuming this flows to the south. But at least there's something falling from the sky across the southwest, especially here and into Colorado. Hopefully, it doesn't completely dry out there. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.